This show we started 4 years ago with the New Jersey Triumph Association. This is Deborah Lipp, and my name is Cliff Bissett. This is our baby. We pushed the club to do this, and as you see, we got the Military Transport Association involved in it now, and we love doing this thing for the vets. We spend a day here, all day with the vets. We feed them, we do goodie bags with them, and it's just a nice day. And it's a great show. We've been blessed with great weather, and both clubs come together, and I couldn't do this show without Debbie. I get an idea in my head, and then I turn around and I say it, and Debbie writes it down. Then we sit down and compare notes, and then we write to people, and that's how we get all these donations. So I'd like to thank everybody that donated for this show, and everybody that came to this show and supported us, and the veterans.
The Military Transport Association is a nonprofit dedicated to the education and preservation of historic and military vehicles and their equipment since 1971. It started out as a Jeep club of guys that really just used a four-wheel. They started collecting military vehicles, and while the other Jeep clubs started going off into the woods, they painted their Jeeps green again because they were veterans. We are a veterans organization with about 80% veterans in our club, so this fits us like a T. Coming together with you in a partnership in this show has something to do with everything that we all believe in, which is our veterans. Being at the hospital, the weather, the vehicles is where the veterans seem to be most comfortable. Our vehicles are extremely comfortable when veterans come together and start telling those stories. Some of the stories that I've heard from veterans in the back of some of my trucks were, oh my gosh, on D-Day we landed on all the beaches and there were only 2 of us left, and so-and-so took it in this day. And I'd get out and their children would say, who are our age, and go, we've never heard those stories. They opened it there, he's like a different man. He's like he's 22 again in the back of that truck. And that is what this is all about, and it's what we're really to be proud of. Veterans are what makes this nation great, and our partnership is part of that. I'd like to thank you for that.
This is a 5-ton. This is a military 5-ton. I would say probably from the late 80s. It was purchased from the government. And we do plenty of things for veterans organizations. We're, of course, a charity, a nonprofit. So all the money that we make goes to support different veterans' causes.
1970 M35A2, which is a 2.5-ton cargo truck. It's painted in the Vietnam colors. The only thing that's not is the tarp is from Desert Storm, but it's a multi-fuel inline 6-cylinder motor. It's 6-wheel drive, 5-speed manual with a high-low transfer case. So you basically have 10 gears you can use.
I ask for the donations, and I think of whatever I can and what would be a nice gift that people would give. I fill out a lot of forms, send a lot of flyers.
This is a 1945 GPW, which is a Ford-made Jeep, and it's a little bit rarer than most World War II Jeeps because it's not a Willys. And back during the war, Willys was the low bidder for Jeeps being produced for the war effort, but they couldn't keep up with the demand, so Ford was asked to start building them. So this happens to be a Ford, and it's got the original engine and frame. It's been a project that started from almost a rust pile. It's just a fun vehicle. It's a vehicle that your average Joe can work on. It's not extremely complicated like modern cars are. And it's been a fun project, very rewarding when we get to give veterans rides and parades. And without the club, I probably wouldn't have gone as far as I've gone with these Jeeps that I've done, because you meet a lot of people, and a lot of people offer help. And if you're ever going to restore anything, I always highly recommend to be part of the club.
This is a 1941 Army Radio Command Car. I've had it for almost 20 years. This is a 30 caliber water-cooled machine gun, and the other side is a 50 caliber machine gun. Then hanging inside, we got a couple more hanging in there. And all radios in there that we had. I was in Korea in 1952 to almost 1954. Came home safe and sound, and 3 years later, I got married and still married to her.
It's a 1965 version of an M38A1. It's a 65 made by Kaiser Willys, and it's got an F-134 engine in it. It's a Vietnam era vehicle. It's all Inuit ordnance that we used in the Vietnam era. Some of it was used in World War II in Korea, and we ended up using up a lot of the stuff from Korea era in Vietnam, and that's where all this came from. It's just Inuit ordnance to show people what it looked like.
Okay, well, this is a 1971 AM General, which actually you could say is a Jeep because the Jeep Corporation owned AM General. You know, it was their military division. This just happened to be a shortened one, which somewhere in the world they did make them because there was other designations for it. There's a lot of guys that bob them, you know, put trailer beds on them and stuff that, you know, I like the shorter truck. It was just easy to park at my house instead of, you know, some of the bigger ones. You know, my wife didn't have a problem with it. All she said I had to do was paint it camo. I said, okay, we can do that. Actually, I had this made up because everybody asked that, you know, when you're doing a parade, the one thing that I got upset or a little concerned about is everybody's waving at, thank you for your service. Well, I wasn't in the service. I just, you know, got interested in the trucks because somebody else was. That, you know, I felt bad, you know, thank you for service, and okay, you would just brush it off. So on the back of our shirts, we have this, you know, and I had this made up so when in parades, people actually read it, that, right, you know, that these are privately owned, you know, for the history and, you know, things like that.
We have a 1991 Jaguar XJS Classic Collection Coupe. We've been showing it since '92. We do a lot of concourses with the car. Out of 100 points being a perfect car, which I've only seen about maybe one in the 22 years I've been showing the car, we average like a 97.8, 99.2, close, but not a 100-point car. The car is all original except for the battery and the tires. It's a V12. It's a 5.3 liter, 350 horsepower. It's got a turbo transmission, which is through General Motors. It's got Pirelli tires on it, lattice wheels. The whole car is originally stock. There's no humidity, the weather's good, you got a cool breeze, it's a perfect day.
We're looking here at a 1974 Triumph Spitfire. I did a little extra modifications to this engine. Had it to a place called PRI out in California, which they redid the whole engine. Got racing cams in it, oversized pistons, new valves, the whole engine's new. It's got 4 C.R. Klein drag racing carburetors they use on Honda motorcycles. It's got a turbocharger kind of header system, so it pulls the air out like a little tornado, comes out on a side pipe. So we're getting about 150 horse out of this engine now. Stock is about 75. Racing shocks all the way around. I got a custom front nose. It's all fiberglass. Put a fiberglass back on. Corvette paint all around. Basically took me about 13 years in little pieces, day by day in my garage, putting this thing together. But I think the end product speaks for itself, and it runs great. It's my 4th year now coming to this show. I love coming here. It's probably my favorite show. I like hanging out, talking with all the vets, and just get some really good stories with some of the guys. I met a guy this morning who worked on maintenance, and he was describing every one of these vehicles. He had driven every one and knows everything about them. So it was a really great time, and I like to honor the vets.
All right, this is a 1973 TR6. It's in a little rough shape, but it has some upgrades, let's say. I've added electric fuel pump, electronic ignition. Last year I redid the carburetors, and it actually runs, and it got me here, and it's a nice little car. It's a beautiful day to drive it, and it's a lot of fun.
This is my 1973 TR6, which I own since 1973. I've been the owner of it for 40 years plus, and it's in its 3rd restoration stage, and it's a rider, which I love to use on weekends like this. Beautiful day. We have, basic engine that's been cleaned up, and clean inside upholstery and a nice paint job, and I love it, and it's my baby, and I'll keep on trucking as long as I'm around. We mingle with the vets as they walk around, and they all enjoy looking at our cars, and as they stop by, we have a conversation. They'll usually ask you things like, what year is it, and how long have you had it, and a nice car, and they move on. So it's a pleasure for us to be here with them and have the opportunity to thank them for their service to our country. We really enjoy this show, and that's why we're here.
I got a 1974 TR6 Mimosa Yellow. Actually, this car is all original. It was purchased originally by a Navy lieutenant up in New London, Connecticut in 1974, who drove it around for maybe 3 or 4 years before he wound up in Phoenix, Arizona, and the car's been in Phoenix, Arizona, garage kept since 1978. It has 60,000 miles on it right now. Everything is original. There's a couple little things that I redid paint-wise. I painted the valve covers and the air cleaner, and I replaced the windshield washer. That's it for now, though. But all the paint is original. There's no rust on the car, and I redid the seats. So it's been very reliable. I had very few problems with it, and it's been a lot of fun. Well, I'm a vet myself. I'm a retired Army helicopter pilot, so this means a lot to me to have these guys here. You know, it's a kinship, it's a brotherhood. So I'm happy to do it.
The car I came in is my 1970 TR6. It's a driving car. It's not a show car. It's a little bit on the rough side, but it's been reliable to me. It's a good starting car. It's a nice, easy car to drive. It's got lots of torque, so even though it's a 4-speed, you don't have to worry about downshifting to go up hills. It sticks to the road real nice, and with an open top, we get to enjoy the sun and the scenery. We really enjoy coming to this show, not so much to deal with the cars, but to deal with the people. The vets that are here, it's just a joy to be able to have something to offer them, to give them a little break in their normal activities, shall we say, so they can come out, enjoy the sun, a nice lunch that we help provide, and some activities around them picking a car to vote for to get a trophy and have a chance to maybe win a prize.
We're standing next to our 1964 Triumph TR4. It's almost an exact copy of a 1963 TR4 that we had when we were first married, and that lasted us through 2 children and 1 large dog. But as the children grew, we had to go a little bit bigger, and we eventually sold that one off. But about 5 years ago, we found this one on the eBay, and it was close by and looking pretty decent, so we plunged and got it. And it's fun to drive it, and it's great to belong to the New Jersey Triumph Association. We'd like to give some recognition to the
vets.
Veterans. We had 2 other things to do today, but we chose to do this.
One
we
son
feel we
is-
owe it.
Yeah, one of our sons is a veteran, and he's still in the reserves.
This is a car that I acquired last year. It was a project from somebody else who lost interest in it after they finished the body work. And my husband and I just did all the mechanicals and got it back on the road. Well, I did attend this show last year, and we had a really nice time. And it's a very good feeling event, you know, being able to spend some time with the veterans. So it was a very enjoyable location too. Nice with the trees. The Mini was something I grew up with. I had, I guess I was about 4 or 5 years old. My dad bought a brand new Austin 850, and that was our family car for 4 years until 64. Then we got or 65, I guess, we got a Volkswagen Beetle. But the Mini was always like the one we liked the best.
My name's Steve Bodenweiser. My wife Betty and I own this 1969 GT6. It's all original. Carburetors are original Strombergs. I've got points and condenser. I didn't go to electronic. And it's a 2-liter 6-cylinder. It's a very torquey engine. I painted it Mercedes-Benz Signal Red with a silver stripe across the bonnet and across the valve cover. I've owned this car since I'm 19 years old. I'm 58 years old, and I've kept it running. I've rebuilt the engine, repainted the engine, but the paint is original. from when I was probably about 20 years old. These are Western wheels. I got them years ago. You can't get them anymore. Actually made the wheel centers out of stainless steel drinking cups because the other ones all fell off. So that's about it for the car. My wife Betty is over there working the tables. We're here at the Veterans Show. It's one of the better shows. It's fun to talk to the guys. We have a lot of fun. These guys are very interesting. Their stories, places they've been and the things they've done. I talked to a gentleman here that both has a degree from Harvard and Princeton. And he worked on cars. Since this is the Veterans Show, I brought a rifle from each country from World War II. On the left side, that's the Allies. That's Russia, the U.S., and Great Britain. They're the Allies. And on the right side, that's the enemy, and that's a Japanese Arsaka, Italian Carsano, and a German Mauser. Again, on the left side is the Russian Mosin Nagant, the U.S. M1 Garand, and the Great Britain's Lee Enfield. And those are the infantry rifles from World War II that the average soldier would carry.
Well, this is a 1964 TR4, affectionately known as Alex's car, because Alex, one of our longtime club members, restored it about 12 years ago. About 2 years ago, he passed away, and I purchased it from his widow. So I really can't take much credit for doing very much to the car. Alex did it all, and he did a great job. In fact, the car, about 10 years ago, he took it out to Breckenridge to a VTR convention and took first place as the national champion TR4 for that year. So Alex did a great job with it. He would drive it all over the place. He was great. The veterans are very interested. They remember these cars. They talk about them. I was chatting with a fellow in a wheelchair. He said he restored one of these back, I don't know how many years ago, he said, but he remembers the car very well. And they enjoy it too. It's something that something for them to do, and it's something from their past also. So just a wonderful idea. I'm looking forward to next year already.